88,000 at their stadium. So it's it's a big time situation that they
Missed the Alabama trip. I know you were disappointed, but good reasons not to go out there. But to be able to experience Oklahoma in person, that's one of the places football-wise I've never seen. I've never had a chance to go out there. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure. I've been through the state of Oklahoma maybe once in my lifetime, so it would be fun to go there and just see what their pregame and what their atmosphere is like. And the Gamecocks may have actually called a break with regards to just the atmosphere, Phil. This might be even a more difficult road trip if this were the front end of what they just experienced. But having already gone to Tuscaloosa with some of the young players and newcomers who had never played, heck, nobody on that roster had played at Alabama in a Gamecock uniform before. So you know what to expect now. When you get out to Oklahoma, you'll see another crowd that's going to be just as vocal and maybe even more angry, angrier than the Alabama folks because they're coming off a bad loss to their most heated rivals.
Yeah. Well, they were hammered last week by Texas 34-3. 2 games before, they lost to Tennessee. That was also at home, even though the Texas game was a neutral site. There was obviously plenty of Oklahoma fans there. They lose at home by 10 to Tennessee. In between, they won at Auburn. Home crowd at Oklahoma has not had a legitimate win. And when I say legitimate against a big time opponent, they beat Temple, Houston, and Tulane.
Why is it not picking up?
Big time right now, and they lose to Tennessee.
Why are you not picking up the external mic?
Then they lose. They go to Auburn and they win, and then they lose on a neutral site to Texas. Now South Carolina comes in, which is their first opportunity to win a game against.
Any hint of this, but how much do you think the guys want to go back and play well to help their head coach look good going back to his home grounds at Oklahoma?
Well, I mean, I just think that I don't know that that's going to be a motivating factor for them. For him, certainly he'd like to show the folks of Oklahoma that he learned his lessons well there when he was coaching there under Lincoln Riley, and he's got a really good team this year, and he's building a very solid program. I think he impressed people at Alabama. He had to have impressed people at Alabama. The team had to impress people at Alabama by the way that they had that lead late in the ball game, had a chance to win on the final possession, and came up short. Unless Alabama fans were down on their coach and their team and thinking, boy, we really stink. If we lose to Vanderbilt and then South Carolina comes in here and almost beats us, we must really stink. But I would say that the way the Gamecocks handled their business at Alabama was impressive from the head coach on down. They did not have the mistakes in coaching that they had against Ole Miss. I thought they were very good. In fact, listening today to Dowell Loggins as we listen to the Gamecock coordinators this afternoon as we do on Wednesdays, he made the comment that on that touchdown pass right before halftime from Sellers to Bennett, that he was having a hard time calling that play in that he could not convince himself to call that play because they hadn't practiced that play. It was on his play sheet, and of course they had talked about it, and they were aware of it, but they hadn't practiced it. And so things just lined up. The defense that Alabama ran on that play set up perfectly for that, so he called the play, and obviously they executed it perfectly because he threw a beautiful ball, and Bennett was wide open.
I never played organized football, so this may be off base a bit, but if you've got a play on your play sheet as an offensive coordinator, I would think you're comfortable, regardless of what the play is, to call it, and you certainly would have practiced it. I don't quite understand why there would be any play on his play sheet that they had not at least practiced. That surprised me. And if I'm down Loggins, I'm not sure I reveal that. I just said, hey, how did you like that play call that we got him on at the end of the first half?
I guess, they might have had when you talk about practicing a play, you're talking about repeating that repetition of the play. You do it over and over again. Like he was talking about the fumbles and the fumbles at handoff that they've had, the issues with the ball meshing between the quarterback and the running back. And he said, we practice that over and over again. And there's a technique, and the quarterback has to follow the technique, has to use the right technique, and they have to do this over and over and over again. And they do that in practice every single day. Maybe a play like that is just something you might do a walkthrough with. Maybe you just didn't have time to rep it and go through it over and over again. But now listen, if it had been an incomplete pass or intercepted, he might not have brought that up.
I think I would have kept that to myself.
But since it went well and ended up in a touchdown that put the Gamecocks down 2 at halftime as a result of that, it's worth mentioning. All right, so the Gamecocks, Oklahoma, and then you got Clemson getting ready for Virginia. Tony Elliott said today, it's business for him. He knows all the side stories going on about him going back to Clemson.
Shane Beamer 2.0, right?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Except, Shane wasn't a play caller. He wasn't a coordinator like Tony was. But, same sort of deal.
And Tony's a Clemson guy, too, so it's a little bit different for him. Yeah.
He's a grad, And so, but he's going back there to try to win a ball game, because Virginia is still very much in the hunt in the ACC race at this early stage, this relatively early stage, halfway stage. And, of course, Clemson is one of the pace setters right there with Miami and Pittsburgh and SMU. They're all undefeated in league play. So it's a huge, huge game from that standpoint.
Be curious to see how Garrett Riley calls this ball game against Virginia, because the Tigers are starting to get more explosive plays in their offense than we have seen over the certainly last year, and it's starting to become a part that kind of reminds us of the 2015, the Trevor Lawrence type teams. Virginia has probably as good a secondary as Clemson will see all season long. I got to see those guys that came in and handled Coastal a couple of weeks back. Jonas Sanker, if you're going to the game, number 20 for Virginia, keep an eye on him. This kid's a player. He'll be playing on Sundays. I remember Tim Beck, the head coach of the Chanticleers, telling me before the game this would be the best secondary we'll see all year. Now, that's from Coastal's perspective, but I don't think it's too far of a stretch for Clemson to say, look, these guys are going to challenge our wide receivers. Our guys are going to have those young wide receivers for Clemson are going to have to make some plays downfield against guys who are probably going to be playing on Sundays.
Yeah. Well, Clemson, again, and I want to go to our poll question of the week on our Twitter, on our X at SportsTalkSC, on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. If you haven't had a chance to vote on the poll question, do so. Clemson looks very impressive with their 5-game winning streak, their number 10 national ranking, but that's come against a combined a group of teams with a record of 10-21. Okay, so they're not beating the heavyweights in college football by any means. And so, what do you make of the Tigers and their number 10 ranking, considering that they're beating bad teams thus far? And they might not play any good teams. Virginia aside, we'll see what Virginia's got, but at least they have a winning record. So, the Tigers, are they for real or are they paper Tigers? That's the question. 56.5% of 214 votes say the Tigers are good, but they're overranked. 23.4% say they are a definite, legitimate top 10 team. 20.1% call them a complete fraud.
Well, I think your poll question and our poll question at Sports Talk FC was reflective in how the AP looked at the Tigers this week. I mean, there were teams in front of them that lost. Clemson won their football game and won it impressively on the road, whatever you think of Wake Forest, and they didn't move a bit. So I think the national narrative is, Clemson's good, but they haven't played anybody. The only good team they played this year hammered them to open up the season. This is an entirely different team than what Georgia saw. I would love to be able to replay that game this weekend between Clemson and Georgia. I'm not saying Clemson would beat Georgia. I can with a lot of confidence say they would not get beaten as bad as they did, though.
Well, there's only one other person to bring in on this conversation. Hopefully he's paying attention. Is our Clemson man, Pat Daniel himself, who watches Clemson very closely and studies them very closely. And so, Pat, do you have an opinion about the poll question of the week? You got to remember which microphone to turn on.
That's right. Definitely shaking off a little bit of rust here, fellas. A little bit of rust.
Keep pushing the buttons. Keep pushing the buttons.
One of them will eventually turn me on here. It'll get the party started. So, if I heard you correctly, the poll question is basically whether this Clemson team is for real, if they are a contender for the playoff or not. Is that kind of the basic?
Well, if they're legitimate, because they've beaten opponents with a combined record of 10-21. Their 5-game winning streak.
Sure.
Combined record of those opponents, 10-21. Are they a legitimate top 10 team? Are they real Tigers or are they paper Tigers?
Well, I think that opening game against Georgia still needs to be a pretty big part of the conversation. I realize that teams may occasionally have slow starts, but that is the one game that we can look at against a fellow playoff contender, if we want to call them that, and we know what the score was, 34-3. Now, the Clemson offense has made what appear to be massive strides since then, and one thing you could point at there, and I think a lot of Clemson fans out there, I'm sure you guys have had plenty of callers call in and ask exactly this. I know I've heard a lot of friends wonder, where in the world was Bryant Wesco Jr. in that first game? Because we all got a very large introduction to him in the first quarter of the second game of the season right after that. So the offense has made strides. It takes time for teams, to kind of get their footing a little bit. But I do still think that game does matter. And just from looking at that, Clemson did not seem as if they are a real top 10 team to me at the time. Now, you could say they have arrived, but to me, I'm still looking at them. Yeah, they're ranked in the top 10, but personally, I think they're somewhere around 15 to 20th best team in the country at this moment. Now, they can certainly continue to grow on that. Wes Goodwin has the defense looking good. They've had multiple games in a row now, allowing, 3 games in a row, 14 points or less. I mean, that's Stanford, Florida State, Wake Forest. So maybe it's not the best offenses out there. But Wake Forest, I'd have to look this up. I don't have it in front of me. I don't know the last time they scored 14 points or less against Clemson, or really against many opponents. Wake Forest tends to get at least into the 20s most of the time. Also, reminder, the ACC is down. Of the Power 5 or now Power 4, I think we all can kind of agree that the ACC is the weakest of those 4. Miami seems to be, at least on paper and what we've seen on TV so far, to be the best of the teams in the ACC. Even that win, yes, I think they should have lost against Cal, but they did win. But Miami has to be up there as the best team in the ACC. But with 12 teams making the playoff, you only got to be in the top 12. So even if Clemson were to continue on, make the ACC championship, I'm not even sure they'd have to win it. If they could finish the season at that point, they'd be 11-2 with a loss in the ACC championship. I still think they'd sneak in the back door of that 12-team playoff. So I think that needs to also be a part of the conversation. And I realize maybe I'm going off on a tangent here, but Clemson, to me, is somewhere around 15 to 20 right now in terms of best team, but I think they have a realistic shot at making the playoff.
All right, we'll see what happens. Yeah, no question they have a legitimate shot right now of making the playoffs. They have a schedule that sets up very nicely for them, as we've said repeatedly. Maybe we'll see what Virginia does. Louisville coming up, a trip to Virginia Tech, a trip to Pittsburgh, South Carolina at home. I think that one is definitely going to be a tight ball game. I think it's going to be low scoring and a very slim winner, whichever way that one goes. We'll talk about that down the road. Let's go ahead and get to some phone calls. Coming up later tonight, we'll have our edition of Chalk Talk with Coach Reedy and Coach Johnson. We'll hear from the Gamecocks receiver Nick Harbor tonight, and Clemson running back Keith Adams. Hear from him as well tonight as they were talking with the media, so we'll bring that to you. But let's go to the phones. Phone number 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery. Lucky number, and it is Ray in Murrells Inlets. Up first in line tonight. Ray, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Doing great, Phil. Doing great. I tell you, I was listening to you earlier and thinking about everything and talking about, the quarterback trying to hand the ball to the running back and the RPO and there's a fumble. I'm going to tell you, I may be the only person in the state field. I cannot stand the RPO. I cannot stand it because I tell you, I know everybody runs it, and I know when it's run, it's beauty. It's a thing of perfection. When it's run great and all that. But to me, I don't know if the risk is worth the reward. And I tell you why. Because the linemen, the three options, they're 2 are runs, right? So a lot of times you fake it and you throw it. How many times is there an ineligible receiver downfield? A lineman, because they're thinking, I got to get downfield and block. And I saw 2 other games than just our game where there was a fumble between the running back and the quarterback. Because the running back, in this case, Rocket Sanders, that series belonged to him, Phil. That series, we just intercepted the ball. We had the lead at the time. It was in the fourth quarter. Rocket had just run for like 40 yards on the last series, but we missed a long field goal. I mean, that series was for him. And I just cannot stand that RPO. I mean, play what I call straight-up football. Hand the ball off to your running back when he's playing that good. And if you notice, we were actually getting a push at the line of scrimmage at that time. I mean, to me, it's like first time all year, and it was against Alabama. And I'm like, you got to feed Rocket, but don't like the RPO. But I was telling you, I called him yesterday. I think these last 6 games are going to really define the Beamer tenure. I really do. And I think this game at Norman, at OU, right now, I think it may be one of the biggest games in Beamer's tenure while he's been at Carolina. I think if, God forbid, we were to lose that game and go in another bye week with a loss, I don't know how it's going to set. But anyway, hopefully we win and we have, we get a good vibe off that. But Phil, just wanted to get your take on these last 6 games and that OU game, how big it is. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, it's huge because it's a winnable game for South Carolina right now. And if they can win this game, I mean, it does change the entire mindset because then you think, hey, they can beat Missouri. They can beat Texas A&M at home. Certainly they can go to Vanderbilt and win. Are we talking about the Gamecocks going on a bit of a run here and winning? Maybe 4 games, maybe winning all those games in November that they'll be facing because this is their last game in October. Hard to believe for Clemson, South Carolina, and Coastal. They all have next weekend off. This is it for October. We're out of October football for them this weekend. So, Ray, you're right. I think it's a huge game. Defining moment. Who knows what a defining moment is? Some people might have thought Kentucky winning there was a defining moment. Kentucky's gone on to be pretty average. Everybody wants to talk about their close loss to Georgia, but again, close losses it's still a loss. So you don't want to take too much satisfaction from a close loss. I mean, you want to build on a good performance in a close loss, but you can't be satisfied with it. But I think this team, and I've said this after they went up to Kentucky and did what they did because they played poorly against Old Dominion. I knew that wasn't them. Kentucky was more like them. LSU was very much like them. I don't know who was in the Gamecock uniform when they played Ole Miss. It wasn't this team. And then they showed back up against Alabama. So they've got a chance still to make this into a special season, to have that really good year. And beating a blue blood, look, they got a lot of notoriety by going into Tuscaloosa and being there at the end, coming down to the last possession. Beating Oklahoma would put them way up there in terms of notoriety.
And I'll quickly pull from what Smitty said on Monday. If you look at the way the Gamecocks have played this year, their best performances have been on the road thus far this season. Here's another opportunity to improve upon that.
Hey, thank you for the phone.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Chilly this evening with temperatures dropping all the way to 39 in the Midlands. Tomorrow, much like today, plentiful sunshine, a high of 65 and less breezy. Friday, we start to warm up, sub 74 and sunshine, and the weekend spectacular. Upper 70s and again, nothing but sunshine in our skies. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
The hunting season is here. Whether you hunt in the woods or near the water, Palmetto State Armory has you covered with everything you need for the season. PSA has a complete inventory of AR-style rifles, bolt-action rifles, shotguns, ammunition, outdoor apparel, decoys, and more from all of your favorite brands. Visit PalmettoStateArmory.com to find the store nearest you. Palmetto State Armory, American made for life.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting Elon Musk, the tech mogul who's the world's richest man, plunged more than $70 million of his personal fortune into helping Donald Trump and other Republicans win in November's election, making him one of the biggest donors to GOP causes this campaign season, according to campaign finance disclosures released this week. North Korea has confirmed that its recently revised constitution defines South Korea as a hostile state for the first time. North Korea's rubber-stamped parliament met for 2 days last week to change the country's constitution, but state media hadn't immediately provided many details about the session. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 337 points. The Nasdaq rose 51. The S&P advanced 27. More details at srnnews.com.
You know, a lot of times I get frustrated when I see people getting scammed or misled. Some of these national TV spots pushing these scare tactics for Medicare coverage, they can be very misleading. You get bombarded every fall. You don't need to let this stress you out. See, I've worked with the folks at Hickory Hill Insurance. Tim Hanbury and his dynamic and growing team has helped my family on more than one occasion. Here's the thing. The world of Medicare is changing. The laws and the technology. Hickory Hill Insurance has it covered. They have the knowledge, the leadership, the latest tech, and very caring agents. Their response time to your calls, questions, and concerns is incredible. Remember, I know this. They've helped me. It's as simple as visiting their website, partdandme.com. And I bet you think it's going to cost a mountain of money. Nope, not a penny. Let the Hickory Hill team go to work for you. Visit partdandme.com. If they can help you find a better plan, they will. If they can't, they'll be honest. They'll tell you, stick with what you have, because that's who they are. Online, it's partdandme.com, or just call Hickory Hill Insurance 708-7398. That's 708-7398.
Pardon me, ma'am. Are you interested in lowering your...
I want to do this. Okay. All right, let's adjust audio again. Okay. Testing 1 2. Hello, hello. Testing 1 2. Hello, hello. All right, guys. I know you're not hearing anything. Getting it. Hello, hello.
You visit CWCSC.com.
Ken and his team over at Broker Solar really hoped he came through the recent storm okay. His heart goes out to the folks who are still struggling with things. But I was talking to him, how many people had no power and for how long? We lost everything in our fridge and freezer, and it makes you wonder what issues you can avoid by getting solar power. See, if we had solar batteries, we would have kept that refrigerator, that freezer running, not lost several $100s in food. The power companies have worked hard to get the power back on, and it's appreciated by all of us. But instead of relying on them during a storm or trying to find gasoline for a generator when there's no gas around, call Broker Solar and let them help. Ken is local. There's no gimmicks. See, I've known Ken and his family for more than 20 years. These are great people. I trust them. You can too. Isn't it worth a call to at least ask some questions? Online, it's brokersolar.com, or give Ken a call, 807-7417. That's 803-807-7417. Take some power back instead of being powerless. Call Broker Solar.
She said, give me 6 packs of Brooks and Dunn. If you want a country girl, you just found one. Let's slip away. Yeah, in your Chevrolet. I think I fell in love right then and there.
Welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Talk, Sports Talk Media Network. We are here in Florence at Rivals, a store divided. Love coming here. Be back here on Thanksgiving Eve for the annual Carolina Clemson.
Oh, that's right.
Radio Marathon.
You did that show on Wednesday before, not the Friday after.
Right.
I may actually be able to come over here.
Yeah.
Because Coastal's out of town that weekend. They're playing at Georgia State. So be headed towards Atlanta. But I may be able to come over here before we hit the road.
We invite you to join us.
I appreciate that.
Well, it's not my show. Maybe I shouldn't be inviting you. It's Kennard's show and it's Smothers' show. They combined to put it all together. So you better call them and ask.
But they're smart guys. They don't work on Friday after Thanksgiving.
No.
We unfortunately do.
We do. Because that's the day before the game. You know, we got to do a show before the big rivalry game.
We don't got to do a show before the game.
Well, we got to do a show before the game. No, we got to. Sports Talk is only off on the weekends on
Thanksgiving
Day.
And July 4th, isn't it?
July 4th.
Two days we take off.
Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're here, baby. It's what we do. All right, phone number 888-898-2525. Continue with your phone calls. Appreciate Ray checking in. Let's go to Gamecock Larry. 90 seconds with Gamecock Larry. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
Well, I don't think I can talk 90 seconds. They got me back in. I see you at the VA with pneumonia in both lungs. I'm going to be okay.
Good.
But I just got one thing to say. The Gamecocks should be and could be 3-1 in the SEC. Should be and could be 5-1 during the season. And we got 6 down and 6 to go. And we're going 6-0 in the last 6 games. You talking about the Clemson Tigers? If the Clemson Tigers had the Gamecock schedule, they'd be 1-5. That's all I got to say. Go Gamecocks.
Larry, take care of yourself. Not good that you've got pneumonia, but good that you're going to be better is what you're saying. So we know you'll be better, and we'll be thinking about you. I know Pat had a good time talking to you before you got on the air, so appreciate you calling in. Take care of yourself. Maybe the Gamecocks will get you a win this weekend and make you feel better.
Yes, that would probably improve his health. There's no doubt.
That would uplift him, no question about it. Let's go to Tiger Bryan over in Lancaster. Tiger Bryan, long time. Where you been?
Man, we just been trying to help these people in North Carolina. We got some people up here who's been ex-military, retired Marines, and Army Rangers and all. It's going up there and where they had to hike in there, take stuff, you know. We just try on everybody in Lancaster, Gamecock, Clemson fan, Wofford, South Carolina State, Furman, whoever. Y'all go to Frogs and give to this man stuff. We got two. We got a trailer up there. We got one Frogs on South 200 and R&G Sports. There's a trailer there. They need buddy heaters. They need tents and sleeping bags, blankets, tarps. You know, we started off with food and water. Now it's about 4 or 5 trips. They know what they need. You know what I mean? Corn.
Yeah.
I hate it. You know, it's sad. It's sad, man. I've seen videos. It's awful, man.
Where up in North Carolina are you taking stuff? Where are you getting to?
They taking it to Black Mountain. Started off at Asheville, and then Asheville got flooded with stuff. Literally both ways. You know what I mean? But they hiking in there. If they can't if they can't get through the 4-wheeler, they walk through the creek and take stuff up there. These people do.
Wow.
I mean, they ex-military. You know, it's a whole gang. I mean, not gang, but group of them. You know, they went and Afghanistan and all together, man. I admire it, but I try to go and get something every week and put the word out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, man, we salute you and
amazing.
All the folks who are doing stuff like that. That's big, man. That's just big.
Well, it's sad, man. You see the stuff when you see it. Somebody you trust, you see it on their phone video. We blessed, and I'm blessed. You know what? I'll change the subject before I start crying. I'm a long listener. I can't remember how many. I've been listening probably 25, 30 years. I bet you ain't missed 30 days, 40 days in 30 years.
Well, listen, the show. The show has always been on that schedule since Don Williams formed the show. Now, I will say there were years that we worked on July 4th. I did July 4th shows, yes. And
I
then
probably
when
heard- I
ownership
probably heard.
Yeah, in fact, it was on July 4th. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was on a July 4th that Landon Powell committed to South Carolina. For some
You've
reason,
told this story. I think it
yeah,
is.
and we
yeah.
had his dad on with
Yep,
us, and
it's
I believe that
breaking
was a
news
July
back
4th. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's breaking news back there. Yes.
that was breaking news.
But
But then
hey.
we did away with July 4th. Now, there's a couple of nights for me, if it happens to fall during a workday
Well,
night,
you
that I
got
can't be here.
tied up by you wasn't stalking Trump coming down the road, were you?
That was yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Good Lord, I couldn't get away from the man.
They'll lock you up thinking you're assassinated.
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you a quick, funny story about that. So Trump, my son lives in Chicago, and he works downtown in one of the big buildings. And yesterday morning, where was Trump? In Chicago. In the building, 2 buildings down from his building. So his area was all caught up in the blockade and the motorcade and the traffic, and the garages were closed. So he had to deal with it. Then I'm driving into Atlanta yesterday afternoon, and I run smack dab into it. And apparently he stayed overnight because he did that live town hall this morning, and my daughter was driving back into Atlanta, and she ran into it. So all 3 of us got smacked by Trumpism over the last 2 days.
You know what?
Couldn't get away
you know
from
what
it.
that is? Come on. That's good Lord telling all 3 of y'all to vote for Trump.
Well, I can't speak for
That's
them.
right. That's a
I can't
sign
speak
now.
for them, TB. I can't speak for them. They got their own minds.
I'm not politics. I mean, I'm a Trumper. I ain't gonna lie. But guys, I just want you to know stuff. I want to give Gamecock Larry, I'm praying for you, brother. I don't care if y'all be. Hey, if you in bad shape, no, I'll take a loss just so you be happy. Yeah.
We want Gamecock Larry to be around a long, long time. He's got to. He's
to be
got to be
around.
there. You know,
He's been good to me lately. He used to fuss at me, put me down. Hey, you remember that time we both got on the radio at the same time?
Yes, that was classic radio.
When I said,
we still
my
haven't heard the
wife
last
said,
of that.
She don't never listen to it. She said, "Hi, thing." She said, "That old man, you'll not give him a fit like you."
We got to keep Larry around long enough so he can lead the Gamecock National Championship Parade down Main Street, Columbia.
You hear me?
Say again?
Gamecock Larry, you listen, that's Tiger Bryan. Hey, you ain't gonna wear it today. You be lucky to go to the bowl game. You better get old Beamer a hat for that Mayo Bowl he's gonna go to. That man ain't gonna get him a damn big hat this time.
All right,
what's
TB.
gonna happen. When you come to Tiger Town, we're gonna get you. We love you. All right, we love y'all too, man.
Take care, man. Good hearing from
Thanks,
you.
Brian.
All right, Tiger Brian.
He brings up a fascinating point about North Carolina, though, because the weather is quickly changing, and it changes real fast up there. I actually looked at the forecast. I think Beach Mountain, which is above Boone, is supposed to get the first snows of the season today.
That's all they need.
On top of water and everything else they need, blankets and sleeping bags and all that kind of stuff is going to be critically important moving forward.
Let me go back and mention the poll question brought to you by Larry Lucas, State Farm Insurance in Columbia. All your insurance questions, all your insurance needs can be answered by Larry and the staff. 803-799-1998. That's 803-799-1998. You can remember 1998 because that was the year Pat was born, 1998. No, I think he was born a little bit after that.
I'll take it.
I'm guessing that actually means he was born a little bit before that.
1998. Let's go to Ron in Greenville before we hit our break. Ron, welcome in. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
You know what? Gamecock Larry said that South Carolina goes 6-0. Gamecock Larry, I believe they'll beat Oklahoma. They'll lose to Texas A&M. And I believe they might beat Missouri. And probably they play Wofford. But they are not going to beat Clemson. Chris, the last 10 years, how many times has South Carolina beat Clemson?
In the last 10 years?
10 years.
Well, they won
twice.
They won up there with Beamer. And you got to go back 10 years. So you're talking, they didn't win under Muschamp.
Yep.
Muschamp never beat them.
Well, Clemson had a 7-game winning streak at one point in time. And
so
then,
I guess you're saying once.
And that was by 1 point, wasn't it?
Yeah, 31-30, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it
Wasn't that
was.
final?
Yeah, something like that. Yep. That's right.
Well,
yeah, Clemson has owned the rivalry
There's
here
no
the last
doubt.
decade.
Yeah, Brian's right. They'll be lucky to go to a bowl game. Cause as far as I can see, I don't know much about football, but the worst I can see, the best I can see, 6-6. What do
Now,
you
Ron,
think, Phil?
you know a lot about football. Don't sit here and tell me you don't know anything about football. You know a lot about football.
Well, I do know. I mean, people think I know a little bit.
I know you know a lot. Don't shortchange yourself, my brother.
Hey, what I might do is send you about $200, and when people call in, want to make just a friendly little wager, I might let you do that. Then that way, if I lose, you'll have the money to pay them.
I'm happy to take your money and do anything I can with it. So feel free.
I think the state of South Carolina might be upset with us there, Ron, doing sports betting over the radio.
Oh, that's true. It's not legal.
It's not legal in our state. Yeah.
All right, we're just going to put it straight to the gravy fund at Seawells then. Thanks, Ron. We appreciate that.
There we go.
But if something is going to become legal at some point in time, it's going to become legal. So why don't we just go ahead and do it now, and it'll become legal eventually. Just don't arrest us or anything
I just
like
prefer
that.
us not to be on the front end of that.
Yeah. I hear you.
stopped. I used to bet when I was younger, but I stopped betting one time because, hey, I actually won enough money to buy a Corvette. And so I bought me a new Corvette, and boy, my mother jumped all over me.
Your
I
mother
stopped
jumped all over you
Yeah.
because you
So I
bought
had
a
to
Corvette?
What's wrong with a vet?
Yeah, I won enough money to buy a Corvette, a new one.
That's nice.
That is nice.
All right, Ron, thank you very much, sir. It's always good hearing from you. Appreciate it. 888-898-2525 is the number. What you got?
It is twice in the last 10 years. Gamecocks won the last of their 5-game winning streak. Then Clemson ripped off 7 in a row. Gamecocks won 2 years ago, and then Clemson won last year. So there's your 10.
Appreciate the phone calls. Let's go to the break. We'll come back with more, and we got time for more phone calls. We got Chalk Talk coming up at 7:05. Coach Ellis Johnson and Coach Chuck Reedy will have some recruiting for you. We'll hear from Nick Harbor of the Gamecocks. They got to make more use of Nick Harbor now. I think he has showed that he can do it. Get the ball in his hands. And we'll hear from Keith Adams Jr., Termite Jr. His dad's nickname was a termite.
His is Hammerhead.
Okay. And we'll be back.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
Great things don't happen all at once. Big dreams take time. And when it comes to saving for college, it's those small steps that make a difference. I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 5-9 college savings plan, is designed to be taken step by step. You can start with any amount, contributions are tax deductible, and earnings grow tax-free. So why wait? Discover the smart, easy way to save for college at futurescholar.com.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has a new rolling jackpot, and trust me, our state hasn't seen anything this big before.
How big? Harbortown Lighthouse big?
Bigger.
Bigger than the Ravenel Bridge?
Even bigger.
Not bigger than Table Rock.
With this new rolling jackpot, Palmetto Cash 5 is officially too big to ignore. Palmetto Cash 5 draws nightly, so play today. Check if your numbers are winners in the Players Club app or at SCEducationLottery.com. Overall odds are 1 in 10. Top prize odds are 1 in 850,668.
We're with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer, it's the fall in South Carolina. That means it's deer season. What do people need to know about?
That's right, Phil. It is deer season. We always want to remind hunters to identify your target. Know the identifying features of the game you're hunting. Make sure that it's a deer before you take that shot. When walking to and from your stand and load, use a flashlight so that no one will mistake you for a deer. For more information on hunting safety and more information on deer season, listen to our show on Wednesday nights on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Set your youth up for a lifetime of financial success with Smart Start from Founders Federal Credit Union. Smart Start products and educational resources help teach kids and teens the basics of saving, budgeting, and smart spending. Help them learn smart money skills to jumpstart their financial journey with Smart Start savings, debit, certificates, and educational resources. Learn more at foundersfcu.com/smartstart. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electric, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through co-op connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. That's the sound of a big hit on you and your car or truck. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years, helping people who get injured in car wrecks and truck wrecks. If you have serious injuries, call Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968. Email me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. That's CORBETT. I don't get paid unless I recover for you. Jim Corbett Attorney, for your best recovery from a big hit, 803-765-2968 or jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
Some insurance carriers are based in another state or only have an online presence. Not at Farm Bureau Insurance. They're a local
Low prices, clearance sale going on. We've seen people in here shopping tonight, taking advantage of it. Grab your Clemson and Gamecock garb for the second half of the football season, into the rivalry weekend, and also into basketball season and in baseball season. I mean, they got everything. They got basketballs, they got baseballs, they got footballs. You name it, they got it. They got stuff for tailgating. They got stuff for inside your home, on your car, on your body. You name it, they got it here
Exactly.
at Rivals, a store divided.
There's literally nothing that you can think of, I don't believe, that does not have a Block C on it or a tiger paw on it, one or the other.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's wonderful, crazy. They're open till 8 tonight since we're here, keeping them open. So get on down here and shop around. 888-898-2525 is our number. Love to hear from you if you have a comment on anything we're talking about. Let me hit on a couple of other key items. So the NCAA today, their rules people handed down a new interpretation related to Dan Lanning in Oregon and putting 12 men on defense in the final minutes of that game the other day. So now, after the 2-minute timeout in either half, if the defense commits a substitution foul and 12 or more are on the field and participate in a down, officials will penalize the defense for that foul, and at the option of the offended team. Never heard it referred to that way. You are the offended team.
The offended team.
Reset the game clock back to the time displayed at the snap. The game clock will then restart on the next snap. If the 12th defender was attempting to exit but was still on the field at the snap and had no influence on the play, then the normal substitution penalty would be enforced with no clock adjustment. So if you intentionally do it and, you're not trying to pull a guy, but you know what? I can still see where you could get away with that, right?
Well, and my question is, all right, this is going to be known as the Dan Lanning rule moving forward.
Yeah.
So what's the next, now that the NCAA and the Rules Infractions Committee have stepped up and tried to block that, where do the coaches go now? What's the next rule to try and push the envelope a little bit further? Because whether you liked it or not, this was genius on Dan Lanning's part because they got the incomplete pass because they had 12. Now, I don't know if the 12th player was the one that actually deflected the pass away, but it was an incomplete pass. Seconds rolled off the clock, and then Ohio State on their last play, they have their quarterback run, and he can't get down in time to stop the clock and end the ballgame. I mean, it was a genius move on Dan Lanning's part. First off, for a coach to be that shrewd and know the rules well enough to say, you know what, it's only going to be a 5-yard penalty. It's not going to move them into field goal range. Plus, it's going to run all the time off the clock. It's genius. Now where do the coaches come back to strike next?
Yeah, but hold on. So the whole idea there is to eat up more time, right?
Correct.
But the NCAA here, in its rule, says if the 12th defender is attempting to get off the field at the snap and does not influence the play, then whatever time is expired, it's still expired.
Right.
So what's to stop a coach from saying, okay, you run out there, 12th man, and then Jimmy over here, when I shake my finger, you run off the field before the snap, give every effort you can to get off the field, and the play starts and the clock runs 4, 5, 6 more seconds. Okay, you're flagged, but now they're not going to put the time back on the clock, even though you intentionally did that.
Well, but Oregon's theory was to run that 12th guy out there. He was going to provide extra defense to prevent them from getting a pass completion.
So what's what was the more the greater point to the play then? Was it for an extra defender or to eat up clock?
Both. It was the extra defender to make sure that Ohio State did not complete a downfield pass. And also in the process is going to run time off the clock.
Okay, so they've really only fixed half the problem.
Theoretically. In theory, but the way the rules are interpreted now, that 12th player running off the field is not going to be out there covering somebody.
Yeah.
See, the way Oregon had it set up, all their defensive backs, and the extra one included, were covering somebody to try and prevent Ohio State from getting a pass down the field, and it worked.
Yeah.
Isn't it a live ball versus
strange to the Ohio State coaching staff? I was going to say, it looked kind of strange to the Ohio State coaching staff to see Smith triple covered and then single coverage on all the other receivers. They're thinking, how is that possible? How can 3 guys be on one and then everybody else be singled up? Go ahead, Pat.
I was just going to say, I think it's also a bit of a live ball versus dead ball difference, right, with how this goes? If the penalty happens and it's a dead ball foul versus a live ball foul, whether time runs off the clock or doesn't run off the clock?
No, this is always going to be a live ball infraction with the illegal substitution because that's where the clock is going to run.
Yeah.
And if you watched Ohio State's head coach Ryan Day, his reaction, he was upset because he knew he'd been had.
All right, got to hit the break. We'll be back.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Nebraska's High Court has ruled on voting rights for people with felony records. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
In a ruling with implications for the upcoming election, Nebraska's High Court says people with felony records can register to vote. The state Supreme Court ruled Wednesday that the Secretary of State had no authority to declare unconstitutional a state law that restored the voting rights of those who have been convicted of a felony. The official's order kept thousands of Nebraskans from voting in the November 5th election. Many reside in the Omaha area district that will offer the presidential candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, one electoral vote in a dead heat race. I'm Julie Walker.
U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kirk Campbell says that Washington and its allies are alarmed by North Korea's nuclear and missile threats, as well as its increasing military support for Russia's war in Ukraine. But he did not confirm Ukrainian claims that Pyongyang is sending soldiers to fight for Moscow.
There are reports of further activities, including personnel. I think we are still evaluating those reports. We are concerned by them, and as I said, I think we agreed that we'll continue to monitor the situation closely.
Campbell spoke with reporters Wednesday following discussions with South Korean and Japanese counterparts on reinvigorating an international pressure campaign against North Korea, which has faltered recently at the United Nations Security Council. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 337 points, the Nasdaq rose 51, the S&P advanced 27. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
Send.
Another record-breaking day on Wall Street.
Stocks closed higher on Wall Street following solid profit reports from Morgan Stanley, United Airlines, and other big companies. The S&P 500 climbed 0.5% Wednesday, a day after sliding from its all-time high. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 337 points to its record high. That's about 0.8%. The Nasdaq Composite rose 0.3%. Energy stocks were doing better than they were a day earlier. Stocks in the chip industry also held up better. That came a day after a warning about flagging demand from a key supplier to the chip-making industry. Dutch company ASML said on Tuesday that market segments outside of AI were taking longer than expected to recover. Seth Sutel, New York.
Tech giants Amazon and Google are investing in the next generation of nuclear reactors. Both companies are seeking new sources of carbon-free electricity to meet increasing demand from data centers. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Chilly this evening with temperatures dropping all the way to 39 in the Midlands. Tomorrow, much like today, plentiful sunshine, a high of 65 and less breezy. Friday, we start to warm up some 74 and sunshine, and the weekend spectacular. Upper 7 again, nothing but sunshine in our skies. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Ooh, I like when you press that one.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network. We're in Florence. We're at Rivals, a store divided. Just a moment, we'll have Chuck Reedy and Ellis Johnson with us. I was walking around the store during the break, and it is truly a store divided. they have an area, a little boutique area, and then they have a second level, a second floor, and you look up from the ground floor through the windows up there. You can see the ceilings in that room, and one side has tile of garnet, and the other side has ceiling tile of orange. So, I mean,
They have left
everything
nothing to
here is
chance.
split. Yeah. They're not leaning one way or another. I mean, you got everything here. You got cornhole boards in Gamecock colors and Clemson colors. You got the helmets. I wanted to mention this too. Man, South Carolina and Clemson both playing on the road Saturday, wearing their all whites. I love the all whites that both teams have. And man, the Gamecocks are wearing the helmets with the big C on it, the old George Rogers era. Again, second time this year.
Didn't have the stars this time, though, did they?
I don't remember, but they did have the three stripes on the helmet. And my own personal opinion is that helmet looks so much better than the one that they use normally because that C is too small. I don't know when they went to that size C. It might have been Lou Holtz's year when he first came on board. I don't know why they reduced the size of the logo on the side of the helmet because it just stands out more on television.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't understand why they did that, but I like the look. There's both of them, the Clemson look and the Carolina look on Saturday with those white uniforms. Pretty cool.
The icy whites is what Coastal calls them, and the Chanticleers wore those as well on the road this past Thursday up at JMU.
All pretty snazzy.
Yep,
all pretty
I agree.
snazzy stuff. Mention a couple of things here while we're getting the coaches lined up on the program tonight. And this list came out today of the highest paid college football coaches for 2024.
Why is that important?
I don't know. There's a lot of things that we write about and talk about that aren't important.
I mean, why does anyone care how much somebody makes?
Well, because when a football coach is making $13 million a year.
Well, we understand that the football coach at most major universities is the highest paid employee at that university and maybe the highest paid employee in their state. We've come to grips with that. And I guess some of it is tax money, so we need to see where that money comes from. But I mean, I don't get the obsession that people have with other people's money.
That's true. That's an excellent point. But we'll continue. Dabo Swinney makes $11,132,000. Sarkisian is right at $10 million. Lincoln Riley is Sarkisian's at 10.6. Lincoln Riley's at a little over 10. Ryan Day the same. Norvell is making $10 million. Are you kidding me? DeBoer is making $10 million. And we also have the list here of highest paid former head coaches. Chuck Reedy is number one on that list, $35 million.
More than Muschamp, right?
Number two is Ellis Johnson. No, Ellis Johnson nudges out Will Muschamp for number two on that list. Let's welcome in Coach Chuck Reedy, Coach Ellis Johnson, another edition of Chalk Talk here on Sports Talk. Coach Reedy, good evening, sir. Welcome in. How are you?
Hey, Phil, I'm doing great. No, I'd be the lowest former coach salary, I can assure you.
Coach Johnson, welcome in. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Good to be here.
Good to have you with us. Chuck, if you don't mind me dialing back the clock to those crazy days after Danny Ford was fired, and I remember being inside, I guess it was McFadden, and as a media member, we were crowded in there, and because interviews with Bobby Robinson and all were taking place, and I remember you and brother, what was brother's last name?
Bill Oliver.
Brother Oliver. I mean, it's like three or four of you, like interviewing like that day or whatever, and we all thought you were going to be named head coach. How, if you don't mind sharing, like, what did you know? What was going on with you guys back then? How close did you become? How close did you come to becoming the head coach?
Well, I will tell you how close. Brother Oliver and I were the only two that interviewed. They had interviewed Hatfield, I think, in Memphis, maybe on the Friday night. This was a Saturday. They tried to interview Fisher DeBerry, and they never could make that work. They didn't. They called me sometime in the afternoon and said, Chuck, you know, we're going to call Ken Hatfield. We don't think he's going to take the job, and you're going to be the coach. Just sit tight. Don't don't go anywhere. And when they called Hatfield, he was interested in the job. He was having problems with broils or whatever. And that thing went on all night. Y'all were waiting outside. I mean, I thought I had the job. I mean, I was basically told I had the job, but then Hatfield wanted the job. He never even came to Clemson. I mean, he took the job sight unseen. And so I got a call, the next morning that Hatfield took the job. So not only did I not have the head coaching job, I didn't have a job.
Wow.
So anyway,
that kind of stinks.
Anyway,
Hard to speculate,
yeah,
Coach, but how different would your life have been had you gotten the Clemson job?
Well, I don't know. I probably would have never met my beautiful wife. So, God has a better plan, I guess.
There you go. That's a good way of looking at it. You willing to pass on millions and millions of dollars and be the model. Would you do you think you would have won a national championship at Clemson?
Well, I don't know. Who knows, Bill? We had a good thing going there, and but just it didn't work out. So that's the way
Ellis,
it goes.
I don't want to leave you out of this conversation. I'm just trying to think. Now let's turn our attention to something else. Let's don't talk about Southern Miss. Ellis, what'd you think of South Carolina's effort and performance at Alabama?
I thought you played hard, obviously. Gosh, I don't know. It was so close, and Alabama's not a good football team right now. They're talented, but they're not a good football team, and it's been 3 weeks in a row. But they're close in talent. I don't know if they're young or it's too many portal or if it's a confidence thing, but they sometimes they have to overplay to be successful or something, because I mean to me it wasn't that bad of a matchup, and they did some good things, especially on defense. Got a couple of picks, and they got a safety, with the intentional grounding. I don't know. I just thought they played well in spurts, but they're just not playing consistently like they have confidence that they belong right now. And I don't know what it is, but Shane's been there, and he's been at Carolina when we were able to play like that sometimes. And I don't know what it is, but that's just they're so close, and all of a sudden they do something to kind of hurt themselves, or they don't play good in a critical situation.
Chuck, the offensive side for the Gamecocks, I think you would say Lenore Sellers probably had his best overall game. If they can just rid themselves of the bugaboos that bite them at critical times on offense, they might be pretty doggone good in that area.
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought he took a step forward. He made some good throws. He made a few plays with his feet. But he still, he made some poor decisions at times, and you can't turn the ball over. He had three turnovers himself, and as long as they continue to do that, they're going to have a hard time beating a good football team. It's like we talked about last week. It's very reminiscent of Klubnik a year ago. Klubnik a year ago, made turnovers, made poor decisions that cost them some games, and that's what you see with Sellers right now.
So the offense continues to hurt itself, with some poorly timed mistakes. You mentioned fumbles and the penalties. Yet it looked like on that first drive of the second half, Chuck, offensive line just stood up and moved Alabama around. And it kind of shows that they're capable of doing it. How do you do that? Get it on a consistent basis where it's something that you can do, for 70, 80 plays in a ball game instead of just an occasional drive here or there.
Well, I mean, you need to have success in order to build confidence, and every time that they go out and have some success, and I thought they do a better job run blocking than they do pass protection, and they had some success running the football. But they're still, they're a young offensive line. But they just, the thing that is hard for me to figure out about Carolina, they're the most up and down football team. I mean, you never know what you're going to get every week.
Yeah.
I mean, they go to Kentucky and look really good. Terrible. In the first game against Old Dominion, they look awful. Then they come back and and Ole Miss, they're nothing. Then they come out at Alabama. You just don't know. There's no consistency there, and I don't know what you attribute that to, but I know that you have to have some success in order to build confidence. You look at Clemson. They've had success. They've got confidence now. They're playing with confidence. And, right now, South Carolina just doesn't have that confidence to go out and play well every week.
I want to shift gears to Clemson, Ellis. And, Coach mentioned that Clemson's playing with a lot of confidence, 5-game winning streak. But the teams that they've beaten during this 5-game winning streak have a combined 10 wins. They're 10-21, those 5 teams. So the question is this Clemson team really good? Or are they just beating up on a bunch of weaker kids? I love saying that. And
because they
eventually,
can't run very fast.
And eventually, they're going to get back and face another team the caliber of Georgia and get their teeth punched in.
Well, I don't think it'd be to those extremes, but I think you make a great point. And they have not played the level of competition that Carolina has, through their schedule and are getting ready to play through their schedule. But they have played well, just like Chuck said. I mean, it function, and you can go out there on a given day and the scout team can make you look silly if you're not locked in. And they're confident right now. They're all locked in, and they think they can play, and they got talent. So I think a little bit of it's the opponent, but I don't think the majority of it is that. Now, there's nobody left on the schedule, that can do what you just said, like kick the teeth in. But there are some teams, on that schedule that they're going to have to play really good, and they're not going to get the freebies they may have gotten. Virginia's going to be a very solid team. I thought they beat Louisville last week at their home, but they didn't. But, then it still got Pitt, who's a decent football team. I just think right now the way they're playing, it's not as much about their opponents as it is about the fact that they're just playing better.
What are you seeing from Clemson's defense? They gave up an early touchdown to Wake. Actually, that game was kind of tight there for a little while. Then they really shut them down. What did you see with them in the second half where they just snuffed out the Wake Forest offense totally?
Yeah, they had problems with that system 2 years ago when Wake had a really good football team. Mm-hmm. And they run a very different – first time I ever saw it, we had to go out and play Kansas State, at Kansas State. And Bill Snyder, to me, he sort of started it. That slow ride RPO, that thing is tough. And you have to kind of get out of your base defense and get something different to stop that run and then let your players play back there. It burned Clemson 2 years ago because they had young corners and inexperienced guys. This time they matched up a little bit better, so they didn't have as many big plays on it. But I thought it was obvious they had to adjust a little bit. When you look at the total picture, I mean, statistically and then even physically, they were so much better than Wake Forest, and they played better. But they did have a slow start, and I think it attributed that as much as anything. That's what Wake runs on offense.
Chalk Talk with Coach Reedy and Coach Johnson here on Sports Talk. Let's talk about a few other things, guys. I don't know if you saw Georgia Saturday. I don't know if you saw the incident, Chuck, on the sideline where Kirby Smart grabbed an opponent and shoved him to the side. Who was a player, a Mississippi State player, had run out of bounds on the sideline there, and Kirby was rushing over there supposedly to get in his defensive coordinator's ear and put his hands on the kid and shoved him aside. But nothing has been said hardly about it. Nothing's been done by the SEC. Or how did you view that? Did you view that as just an innocent thing? I mean, what's the deal? You can't put your hands on an opponent like that, can you?
No, I don't think he even knew it was an opponent. I mean, I think he was going to Schumann You know, I mean, he was trying to get to Schumann, and somebody flashed in front of him, and he didn't. I don't think he knew if it was one of his players. Well, I don't think he knew. I mean, I think he was just, instinctively just pushed the guy out of the way. I mean, I think it's been overblown. I mean, obviously he didn't intentionally. It wasn't a damn Woody Hayes incident where he then went up and slammed 4 on the guy. I mean, no. I mean, I think it's overblown. Again, I don't even think he knew that it was a Mississippi State guy. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Ellis, in your day, you were considered one of the great, and I'm saying this with all humility for you, one of the great defensive minds in college football. And I still consider you that. I think it's a shame you're not coaching.
I thought you were going to say one of the greatest fullbacks of all time.
And I think it's a shame that you're not coaching a defense somewhere. And I think it's a shame that Coach Reedy has chosen not to be running offenses anymore. But anyway, what Dan Lanning did the other day by running intentionally a 12th man on the field to play defense, to actually play defense, knowing he had 12 on the field, knowing what the repercussions would have been at that time. Had that ever crossed your mind before? What did you think of that move?
No, we did talk about sometime when it was really close down the goal line, just keep, trying to guess at the snap, because if you didn't get penetration, we're going to stop him. I don't ever remember using a substitution like that to stop the clock. And I don't see anything wrong with what he did, because obviously he didn't break a rule, and I see where they're going to try to adjust it. But, we got screwed one time at East Carolina versus Southern Miss, and we had a terrible play on the last play of the game where the defense benefited from a penalty. So that's a good rule. They need to get that cleaned up. And, that's, I don't know. I never even thought about trying that, but he didn't do anything wrong. I'm glad to get ready to change the rule.
Chuck, the Gamecocks are headed out to Oklahoma. And, I mean, they've been to Texas A&M many times, so that's being out in that part of the country is not totally strange to them. But this is Oklahoma for the first time ever, and this is an Oklahoma team coming off a whipping at the hands of Texas. They're a wounded team. They got offensive problems. Do you give the Gamecocks a pretty good chance here to win this game?
Yeah, I think this is the best chance they've got in October to steal one of these games that nobody thought they could win. And if you think about it, they played better on the road than they have at home. And, so if that trend continues, I think they've got a good chance. If they can just, if they can eliminate the turnovers, I think they'll win the football game. But that's a big if.
What do you think, Ellis? Ellis, what do you think about that one?
I agree 100%. I'm not sure that this is their best shot until Walker. Best shot to get one. The only thing it's going to come down to is turnovers. Which quarterback plays the best, most efficiently, doesn't have any turnovers, not just them turning over, but having turnovers. I think that's the thing. They're both very destructive at times on defense. I think Oklahoma's defense has been a little more consistent. I think both of them have played some pretty tough slates. It's not going to be like they're coming in with having played a bad schedule or anything. So I think they've got a good shot out there. And if Oklahoma's quarterback, the young quarterback, can't handle it, they'll have a good shot to get an upset. And they're a 2-point dog. And I think the only thing that says is they're on the road.
Yeah. And that's a very small line when you think about South Carolina and Oklahoma, Chuck. What about Tony Elliott and what he's doing at Virginia? Now he's going to be at Clemson Saturday. He's putting all that to the side because he's focused on winning. But, he had to overcome that tragedy in his first year, and I think they're still trying to overcome that. What about the job Tony Elliott is doing, and what impresses you about him?
Well, Tony's a class act, always has been. And, I think, they've gone through some hard times, not just the tragedy, but just, in general, just trying to build a program there. And they've made some progress this year. But, if I mean, it's still another situation where, you know, they're going to probably take a beating on Saturday, regardless of, you know, of what they do. I mean, I don't see any way they can, you know, can compete with Clemson.
Yeah. Ellis, Georgia, Texas, two more heavyweights going at it. Got Tennessee, Alabama as well. Let's talk about these games real quick. Who do you like, Georgia, Texas? Which way do you lean there?
Texas is just too good right now. And I mean, I hate to say it, from Georgia, and I'm sitting there saying that Georgia has no control over this game. If Texas does not beat themselves with turnovers or some kind of busted assignments or something crazy in the kicking game, I just think they're that much better than everybody right now. But it won't be easy. On the other side, with Clemson, I agree with Chuck. I mean, they're just got too much firepower, but it'll stay close for a while. Now, Tennessee and Alabama, I think the difference in that right now is Tennessee's defense is playing so much more consistent and so much better. And if both offenses continue to kind of get hot, cold like they have been, I think Alabama is going to lose another game.
All right, last thing, we'll let you go. Chuck, it was announced this week, next year, Georgia Tech's home game against Georgia. They're not going to play it at Grant Field. They're going to play it in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and Georgia Tech's going to be paid $10 million for giving up their rivalry home game for that. Is this a thing of the future? Because, look, teams are looking for ways, any way they can get money. And if you complain as a fan, what will they say? Well, we got to have the money to pay the players. You want to pay us? You want to give us the money? We'll take the money from you. So, I mean, you know, what do you think of this move? Are we going to see other schools doing this?
Of course you will. Money talks, and money controls all of it. I mean, you know, whatever it is, whether it be, you know, conference realignment, you know, whatever. I mean, money controls it, and you know, of course, you're going to see some more of that. You know, obviously, and they'll go to Atlanta, and Georgia will have, you know, 90% of the people in the stadium. I mean, that's the way it is.
If I'm a Tech alum, I am pissed.
Exactly.
I am pissed, Ellis. Ellis, could you ever see?
You need to contribute more money. Then you need to give them more money, Phil.
Well, Ellis, could you see David Tepper calling South Carolina and Clemson and saying, "Hey, I'll give each of you $10 million to play your rivalry game at Bank of America Stadium"? And would they do it?
I don't know what the hell David Tepper would do. We know one thing he can't do. But on just a general question, I think you are going to see a lot of this because, just like Chuck said, it's all about money. I mean, Georgia Tech will take that $10 million. They're going to go buy some players, and that's what it's all about. And that's the NFL with a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds with no contracts, and it's I don't know. Don't get me started.
Gentlemen, we gotta say to Coach Reedy, buenos dias, sayonara. No, that's Japanese. I'm sorry. I don't know much Spanish.
Adios.
Adios.
Hey,
Adios.
If I wasn't going to be 6 hours, it would be 2 o'clock in the morning over there.
Well, we'll do the best we can. You enjoy your trip to Spain.
All right, man.
Don't run into any bulls. Don't get run over by any bulls. And Ellis, thank you, sir. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Send some Starlink with Chuck. He can check in with us.
Be great.
All right, guys. We appreciate you. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Chilly this evening with temperatures dropping all the way to 39 in the Midlands. Tomorrow, much like today, plentiful sunshine, a high of 65 and less breezy. Friday, we start to warm up some 74 in sunshine, and the weekend spectacular. Upper 70s, and again, nothing but sunshine in our skies. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. Vice President Kamala Harris engaged in a combative first interview with Fox News on Wednesday. She sparred on immigration policy and her shifting policy positions, while asserting that if elected, she would not represent a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. Harris's interview with Fox's Brett Baer marked her first foray onto the network, which is popular with conservative viewers. Former President Trump, meanwhile, addressed Latino voters in Florida. That's a group that's historically leaned Democratic, but Republicans have made inroads with. He defended his call for mass deportation of immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally, even as he nodded to a need for immigrant labor during a town hall-style event on Univision. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 337 points. More details at srnnews.com.
Hello here from Progressive. Lots of plumbing companies out there. Few are truly local. Time to discover the difference with Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. See, when I faced plumbing woes at the Cohen home, Josh and his dedicated team, well, they were my go-to solution. They make a commitment to exceptional service. They arrived on time, clearly detailed all the costs and procedures, and efficiently handled all my repairs without any surprises. These days, how often do we complain about a lack of customer service out there? With Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning, these folks are professional. They're courteous. They're skilled at what they do, and they've earned my trust, and they've earned my recommendation to you. From urgent repairs to the tankless water heater you've always wanted, they've got you covered. Visit franklinplumbing.sc.com or call 799-2222. That's 799-2222. Hey, you tell them Kev sent you from The Point. I'm pretty sure you'll want to thank me later.
Questions about Medicare? I'm Joel Lurie, and at Lurie Life and Health, we can help you find the plan that meets your needs and budget. The Medicare annual enrollment period is from October 15th to December 7th. Why use an out-of-state call center when you can work with a local agency? Lurie Life and Health. We're local, independent, and can help you over the phone or in our office. And our service is at no cost to you. Call Lurie Life and Health in Columbia, 803-256-2067.
Tradition and quality. That's what you get with H&J Cattle Company, where local third-generation farmers ensure you receive the finest beef in South Carolina. Our registered Hereford and Wagyu cattle are raised with sustainable practices, without growth hormones, antibiotics, or animal byproducts. Taste the difference with the highest quality beef guaranteed. Order now at hdjcattle.co or on Instagram and Facebook at H&J Cattle CO. Again, hdjcattle.co. Where ethics meets quality.
The fall in Casey, West Columbia is so wonderful, and now it's time for Rhythm on the River, proudly presented by the Greater Casey, West Columbia Chamber. This week, one party's not enough at Riverwalk Amphitheater, so this Thursday, it is time to jam. With Cash Money Experience, what a party! Then on Friday, check out Curve, formerly known as Nahi Groove. There'll be great food trucks, great music, and the best atmosphere. It's Rhythm on the River. For more information on this and all events, check out www.visitcwcsc.com.
Hey y'all, my name's Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. It is football at Flight Deck. We're thrilled about football season. Of course, when you're watching football, there's nothing better than wings and ice cold adult beverages. We here at Flight Deck are offering some of the most delicious meaty wings that you'll ever wrap your lips around. Flight Deck Restaurant's got hot flamethrower wings, barbecue wings, teriyaki wings, honey mustard wings. Flight Deck will be featuring Carolina and Clemson football on all the TVs all the time. So come see some great football, enjoy great wings, and sip some ice cold adult beverages. Flight Deck Restaurant in Lexington. Thanks y'all and God bless.
Back we are, Sports Talk Media Network on this Wednesday night. We are at Rivals in Florence. come on down and say hello. Just had somebody come by walking out with some Clemson gear. Thinks it's going to be a little chilly up in the valley Saturday, so he's preparing.
It's supposed to be nice this weekend. I mean, mid to lower 70s, probably upper 60s up at Clemson. Down along the coast, I think we're going to be in the 70s during game time. So, yeah, fall weather. It's awesome.
Haven't checked the forecast in Oklahoma.
Oh. You haven't checked your handy-dandy paid-for weather forecast?
I have not. I should do that. I think I'll do that tonight now that I'm thinking about it. Looking forward to that, though. I've only been to Oklahoma once, and that was to drive through. Landed in Tulsa, went to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Also flying into Tulsa this time and then driving down or over to Oklahoma City and Norman.
Is that how the team gets in there?
No, I think they fly in Oklahoma
City.
Yeah. I look for the best.
Is there not a jet port in Norman? I would think.
Norman's probably like Clemson. They probably got something where you can land some private jets, maybe small.
But not a 250
airliners.
seat.
Probably not.
Jet,
not.
Yeah.
Phone number 888-898-2525. Really enjoyed having Chuck and Ellis on with us. Love those guys.
Did you know that story about how close he was to the Clemson job?
Oh, yeah.
I had never heard that before. That's amazing.
Yeah.
His life would have been, I know he didn't want to answer it, but I mean, his life would have been totally different.
No question about it. But his life turned out great.
Yeah, I mean, he's not complaining. He's about to go to Spain.
I was standing in the hallway there with a bunch of other media, and Chuck and Brother Oliver walking back and forth to the meetings and all that, and we're hearing it's going to be Chuck. We're expecting it to be Chuck. We hadn't had any conversation about Ken Hatfield.
I was going to say, who is Ken Hatfield?
I spent all day up there that particular day. Was up there the day that Danny. I got a call. I was doing morning sports for the network at that time. I got a call at about 6:30 in the morning, and it was a listener and a contact from up that way. He said, "You better get up here because Danny has backed his truck up to Jervy and he's putting furniture in it." And so I called Don Williams, or either maybe Don called me or I called him. He said, "All right, man, hop on up there." So I blew out of Columbia and got up there as quickly as I could, and we just sat in the waiting area there in the McFadden building for hours, and didn't see Danny or anything. Finally, about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, Danny comes out of his office and walks right past us and right out into the street to his truck, which was parked on that side street that runs toward the stadium in that direction. And we're all following him like a herd of cattle. No pun intended with Danny.
No, right.
And he gets in his truck, his window's down. I've got my arm with my microphone inside the truck to try to catch anything from him. He's not saying anything. People are throwing questions at him left and right. I mean, we're talking about the old-fashioned reporters, Dan Foster's, Luther Gilliard's, Bob Gillespie, I guess, was there maybe from the state. All the writers were there. And TV, Stan Olenek and all the guys from the upstate and Columbia as well, I guess. And we're just all crowded in, and he starts driving the truck. And we're walking along with him until he steps it up to about 10 miles an hour. And my arm almost became a part of his side view mirror there. So, that was a crazy day. And then, of course, the players were upset. They were protesting. Vance Hammond, I remember, was very outspoken as one of the players kind of leading their march. They marched on the students and players, I guess, if I remember right, marched to the president's house. They were all upset about it.
Wow.
All upset. It was some strange time, yeah. Okay.
By the way, 75 and sunny in Norman on Saturday.
How much?
75.
Not bad. I'll take it. Let's go to Andy in Columbia. Then we're going to hear from Nick Harbor. Andy, welcome to Sports Talk. How are you?
Hello, gentlemen.
And why aren't you watching the Mets? I appreciate you'd rather talk to us and watch the Mets.
I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, they start at what time?
They start at 8.
Oh, okay. All right, fine.
I checked that before, so believe me, I would be watching the Mets and not listening to you if the Mets were on. So don't
okay,
get
fine.
There. Now, if Finn was there and Finn was, actually broadcasting, I'd be listening. But,
get to the point.
I appreciate that. He's a big baseball fan too. He likes anything with a ball. So yeah, he'd enjoy the game.
Time is tight. Time is tight. Get to the point.
Okay. The question. Well, my comment is this. I mean, I haven't lived in Atlanta since the late '80s, but as if I remember, the old, the Georgia Tech football stadium I believe, is less than 10 miles away from where the new Falcon Stadium is.
10 miles.
If it's that far.
It's like you can hit it with a
I'm
9-iron.
going to say 5 miles.
No.
5 miles. I remember I used to go to the old Omni.
No. It's
I'd
close.
go to the old Omni, and it was like I drive right through Georgia Tech campus to get to the old Omni.
It's close.
And it's right there.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if I would get paid $2 million a mile to move my football game, and if my
Hadn't thought about that.
if my fan base could not support me and fill that stadium up more than the Georgia Bulldogs, I'll be more than happy to take my $10 million for less than a 5-mile drive. When you're sitting there talking about Tepper and moving the game to Charlotte, you're talking about moving it completely out of state. Then you're not talking about moving it right down the road, okay, so to a nicer facility than that dump that they have in Georgia Tech to start with. So I would think it would be a better fan experience that your fans are not having to travel all the way out of their way, and not to mention your team's getting $10 million. So, Corn, what are y'all complaining about? It's not like it's a neutral site game. This is almost on Georgia Tech's campus.
But as Chuck no doubt accurately pointed out, it will be a heavy Georgia presence inside that building, and it's your
I would
home
think
game.
that Georgia Tech would have control of tickets because it's a home game for them. This
Yeah,
is
but
not
I
a
mean,
neutral site game.
they
If
don't
they cannot
have-
get their own fans to buy up the tickets, then it's their fault.
Well, I don't.
Okay.
You know, they
And if
only
their
sell
fan base isn't
30,000
rabid
season
enough-
tickets, if that many, because Grant Field's been reduced to under 50,000. I mean, they might even be in the low 40s as far as they're like alumni stadium up at Boston College. It's a relatively small on-campus facility, and don't have the season ticket base. I imagine Georgia doubles them from a season ticket base standpoint. But you're right; they'll control X number of tickets. But I bet you wait and see how many Georgia fans are in that building.
Well, and Andy, you make a terrific point. I had not considered how close the campus is to that facility. So you're right. We were just using Bank of America Stadium because it's the only sort of NFL caliber stadium in our vicinity. The point I'm making about it, and first off, I don't like the neutral site games anyway, but I think it's the optics of giving up a home game on your campus. Regardless of whether or not your stadium is anywhere close to as nice as what the Falcons play in, it's giving up a home game on your campus against your hated rivals. They actually have that in the name. Old-fashioned hate.
Yeah.
This is your hated
Well,
rivals.
if your fan base is
name
your
for a
true
rivalry,
fan
by the way.
base- If your fan base is a true fan base, they would take the opportunity to buy those extra tickets and be in a nicer facility and be able to watch their team. But most of them are probably going to buy the tickets and turn around and sell them to these crazy Bulldog fans that live in Atlanta and make all this money. But that's just my opinion, and I just thought I'd throw that out there, fellas. Y'all have a great evening.
All right. Thank you very much. Good hearing from you. We appreciate it.
And he's 100% correct. I mean, everything Andy said is spot on, especially about the distance from Georgia Tech's campus to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But again, it's still the optics to me.
Yeah, I
look
agree.
bad.
I agree.
The optics to
Yeah.
me just look terrible.
I agree.
And guys, let's
Okay.
go back real quick before we move on. And I hope I'm not saying something that was already said here, but remember in 2022 when Clemson and Georgia Tech played in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, that was a home game for Georgia Tech. Now, the next day, Georgia and Oregon also played. Huge difference between that because of tickets. Georgia Tech was not able to sell out their allotment of tickets, so they actually closed the upper deck of the stadium and only played in front of 45,000 fans, whereas Georgia and Oregon sold out the entire stadium and played in front of 72,000 fans. So there was a huge discrepancy there, and Georgia Tech, even though it was only a few miles away from their campus, they struggled back in 2022 to sell out against Clemson.
I agree. They'll do the same thing here against Georgia. Okay, let's get to Nick Harbor, USC receiver, had that great catch late in the Alabama game for a touchdown to give the Gamecocks a chance. Maybe he is now going to emerge as that go-to guy. Here he is the other day talking with the media in Columbia.
Just to kind of break down the touchdown for us from last week.
So
First, I think it was like 1st and 10. We had just got a penalty face mask. So, I mean, like, why not take a shot? And, I mean, Coach Ferry was yelling at me on the sideline. He was like, run. You about to get this ball. I looked at 16. 16 looked at me. I'm like, all right, it's time to go make a play. Like, that's the moments where, you dream of, go make a play for your team. Big game, Alabama, trying to get the upset. And I'm like, just throw it up to 8. Good things happen.
What's going on, Nick? How often do you guys work on those deep ball go routes in practice and stuff? And kind of what are the results you typically see when you're doing those routes in practice?
We work on it a good amount. I mean, it's just depending on like the game plan, like what we got going on. But I mean, there's a couple in there every time. So we get at least 3, 4, a day of practice. So that was a play we worked on a lot. And I mean, it was just a great play call by Coach Loggins. It was just a great execution of the play.
I know going back to the summer, you were talking about how you're trying to work on your pass catching and stuff, the jug machine and all that. How do you feel like that's come along through 6 games of the season?
I feel it's come along real good. Haven't dropped the ball yet, so it's working out. I guess haven't got that many targets, but anytime the ball comes, just gotta catch it because you don't know how many targets you're gonna get that game. So you just gotta make the most of every opportunity. That's what I feel like I'm doing.
On the final play of the game there, Lenore's targeted you again on the deep ball route. At least from watching back on the tape and stuff, it seemed like you slowed down a little bit. Can you just kind of explain what happened there?
Yeah, I didn't see the ball thrown because you see it. He threw it before I got out my break, and then I just didn't see it. So that's not on him. That's on me. So anytime I didn't know where it was at, and then I just seen it fall in the DB's hands. But it's a learning experience. I was just on a different page than everybody.
Obviously, there's so much hype around you with the Olympic trials and the 99 speed and all the stuff on the outside. How have you dealt with this season mentally with so many people probably talking from the outside, but then, internally of, hey, I'm just trying to, get myself on the field. What's that been like for you mentally to process?
Yeah, you just got to work every day. That's what I do. I put in a lot of blood, sweat, effort into this. Probably one of the first in the building, one of the last out. So, I'm putting in that effort, to make sure, my teammates see it, everybody seeing it on the field, practice field. It's starting to show up in games. So, I mean, I just owe that to myself, just to get better every week. And I mean, they just put me in a position where, they give me the keys. So, I just got to go just take it.
You guys have had a couple of these tough losses now, LSU, Bama. How close do you guys feel like as a group, offense, defense, everything, you guys are to having that complete game type performance where you guys come out on top?
We right on the doorstep. I mean, we right there. We just got to kick the door down now. So, we're going to come together. We're going to regroup. And then, it's just time to go up to Norman, Oklahoma, and, finally kick that door down.
With you missing spring ball, it was kind of crazy. You probably didn't even go through a practice with Coach Furry until August. Yeah. At what point this year did you feel like, hey, I'm caught up with everyone, and Coach Furry, I'm on the same level with everyone else?
Now I feel like I'm on the same level, with everybody. We're all, everybody brings a lot to the team, but now I feel like I'm coming into my own. So, I'm just helping the team out, right now the best I can. So, yeah.
All right, Nick Harbor, more will be expected of him.
Yes,
I'm
indeed.
sure that Brent Venables took notes, and he'll have his defense. That's going to be the thing now. Venables can still dial up a tough defense.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to throw the heat. He likes to bring the heat. He'll bring pressure on Lenore Sellers.
But you better have big corners and fast corners if Nick Harbor is going to become a factor, because if not, you see what he can do. He can box you out the way he did on that touchdown reception at the end of the game.
And it got the foot down, too.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic catch. Okay, we'll be back in a moment.
Your home is where your memories live. It's where you laugh and where you love. We understand the importance of the valuables under your roof, tangible and intangible alike. So no matter what's around the corner, we'll be there, offering you and your family support that's Bureau Insurance, a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
Call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171 for all of your Midlands insurance needs.
South Carolina's taste buds have spoken, and they're asking for beef. There are more than 7,800 farms raising cattle from pasture to plate in the Palmetto State. So whether it's steaks on the grill before the big game, sirloin medallions plated for date night, or burgers with a family, make sure beef is a part of your playbook this football season. Smoked, grilled, and slow roasted. Find the best way to enjoy your beef at scattle.org. Beef, it's dinner in South Carolina. Funded by the South Carolina Beef Council, part of the Beef Checkoff program.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
George Bryan for Tsunami Bar Sports. Our inventor, David Abernathy, has always said Tsunami Bar technology allows us to take the training to the grass. Now I know through my sport of golf that natural agility can be converted to athletic ability. And why is this, Tsunami Robbie?
Transferring the training to the grass. This may be the most undervalued characteristic of the Tsunami flexible bar technology. The Tsunami bar action loads and unloads at the concentric and eccentric transition points. This is what we call reversal forces, and the Tsunami bar is the only bar and training device that I know of that can train these reversal forces adequately at speed.
Hey, this is Phil Kornbluth. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait, order today.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hosteller Brown. Did you know it's possible to avoid probate court after you die, regardless of what you own? Why put your loved ones through a long, stressful public process when there are better options for your family? Visit lawyerlisa.com to see how we can help.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
7511 St. Andrews Road, Irmo, South Carolina.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
Football season is upon us, and that means Columbia is welcoming fans from around the corner and across the country. No matter where you're from, Gamecocks love coming together for game day energy that can only be found in South Carolina's capital city. Book hotel rooms, find pre- and post-game activities, and plan your tailgate spread with local favorites from Pimento Cheese Barbecue at ExperienceColumbiaSC.com. We'll see you soon, and go Gamecocks!
The recruiting report on Sports Talk brought to you by Seawells. Make sure you give Seawells a call for all your catering needs at your location or their location. Whatever suits you, 803-771-7385, online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. And, of course, the daily luncheon buffet. Haven't checked the menu, but I got to believe a roast beef Friday with lots and lots of gravy will be coming up this week. So join Pat and his friends at Seawells on Friday. And you need parking for the fair. They got that as well at Seawells. Just drive on over, park your car, and walk across the street to the fair. And, of course, have lunch before you do that and enjoy things at Seawells. Okay.
Friday, by the way, is not a roast beef Friday.
That's too bad.
But you can have plenty of gravy, though, because it's carved turkey with cornbread dressing, southern fried chicken, and salmon croquettes.
That's a nice alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Running back Jaden Jackson of Franklin, Texas, one time was a hot target of USC running backs coach Marquel Blackwell, but he told us earlier this week he's not heard from him in a couple of weeks. Not sure they are still interested. He was scheduled for an official visit the weekend of the Ole Miss game, but that was canceled by USC. He's not heard from them since. He made an official to Sam Houston State in the summer and is scheduled for Wyoming on October 26th. This guy, though, churns out the yardage in 5 games this season, 908 yards and 14 touchdowns, averaging 10.3 yards per carry.
Wow.
In other words, a first down every time he touches
exactly.
it. In his career, he's rushed for 6,557 yards and 92 touchdowns, averaging 10.3. Riverside wide receiver Mikael Skinner set to announce a second commitment October 22nd. USC, Kentucky, Georgia, Ohio State, and USF, the finalists, previously committed to Cincinnati. Right now, my guess would be Kentucky. I don't think he's been to South Carolina in a while, nor Georgia, nor Ohio State, but he has been to Kentucky. That would be my guess at this particular time. 2026 running back Jalen McGill of Mountain View last Friday night, 216 all-purpose yards. He scored 2 touchdowns. Baseball, 2026 shortstop Brady Stewart, Overland Park, Kansas, committed to USC. Basketball, 6'2", Ayla McDowell of Houston. This is women. Down to USC, LSU, TCU, Georgia Tech, Florida, Mississippi State. She's announcing on the 24th. There you go with recruiting. Let's get to a little Keith Adams Jr., shall we?
Yeah, got him up on the website earlier today, SportsTalkSC.com. Got a chance to visit with the media today after his first rushing touchdown of his career as a Tiger this past Saturday against Wake Forest. And he said that was a big play for him, and he's hoping for more opportunities.
I just say, like, taking advantage of every opportunity. Just whenever my name's called, I'm always ready. That's what Coach Spiller always tells us, just always be ready because, you know, you're always one ankle away from having to play from, like, maybe one snap to maybe, like, 20, 30 snaps. So that's just kind of how I take it every game.
Does the body feel different today or this week?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely feels different.
So Barrett was telling us in fall camp that when they try to tackle you, it feels like you're running angry, like there's actual anger.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what's fueling you, or is it an anger? Is it anger the right description, or kind of what is?
Yeah, my dad always told me to just run angry. I'm not really an angry person, but like I do run angry, and it kind of just helps that. You know, it's kind of not just, you know, me that makes me run that way. It's kind of genetics too that happen to play a part into it. But yeah, just being really powerful and just like saying, I just tell myself, don't let one person tackle you. That's kind of how I go about running and stuff.
Do you actually do anything to get yourself into that mindset, or is it just something that?
Listen to music. That's just I love music and stuff. Music just hypes me up pretty much. But yeah, that's what gets me in that mode pretty much. Rap, like, I don't know, like artists, you know, Trippie Redd. I listen to, yeah, like Trippie Redd stuff. That's pretty much all that hypes me up, stuff like that. Yeah, Jungle Book. Jungle Book's really good. Yeah.
You mentioned that you're kind of like not an angry person, but you run on the field angry. I guess Phil Mafalconda has that similar description. How much have you learned from him so far through your time here at Clemson?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Phil is a peaceful person, really nice guy. But yeah, he does run angry, and you can tell like his whole attitude switches when he gets on that field. You know, it means business to him. And just learning from Phil, just watching him, his mannerisms, how he is on the field, it kind of I kind of try to like take a part of that and use that on the field as well. You know, he's an inspiration to me. I just look up to him. So just, you know, being not like knowing that I'm behind him as that other power back.
All right, Keith Adams Jr. wrapping things up tonight. Thank you to the folks here at Rivals, a store divided. Make sure you get here and take advantage of their clearance sale. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Chris. See you tomorrow.
South Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution.